Whee! Oh, hello there! It's me, Doctor Who! Happy Christmas, everybody! I'm here to talk to you about my favorite Christmas movies, the Harry Potter movies. Yeah, they're Christmas movies, I'm pretty sure. Like a few of them. The Harry Potter series is one of the most popular British exports of all time. And no offense to British people, but you guys just haven't made that much stuff, okay? That's fine. I mean, what are some good British things? You guys made Warhammer, Arctic Monkeys. I mean, I do enjoy some Love Island, but I watch that for the big story. But the Harry Potter series is pretty cool, and I've liked it for a long time. In fact, the first video I ever made on this channel is a playthrough of a Harry Potter video game. And you guys have been asking for this video for a while, so I figured why not. But before we talk about these movies, we have to address the big turfy elephant in the room.
I know and love trans people.
And I've given her shit in multiple videos, I've tweeted about her incessantly, and it's no secret that I don't like her. But then the problem is, I kind of like Harry Potter still. Yes, I have an undying distaste for J.K. Rowling, but the way I see it, the films are not really J.K. Rowling products. A lot of people worked on these movies that aren't shitty people. Daniel Radcliffe seems like a pretty nice guy, and he says that she's wrong and dumb, and I agree with him. A lot of the actors and other people that made these movies don't agree with her, and I think that it's not really fair to invalidate their work just because of one person. I mean, Chris Pratt may not support gay rights, but you guys are gonna go watch the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I know you are. You're not fucking fooling me. Over the course of my lifespan, I have already purchased every single book and movie in the Harry Potter series before I knew she was shitty. I played the video games when I was a kid, I spent a year in college working at the Harry Potter theme park in Universal Studios. I have literally given J.K. Rowling my money and my labor. So at this point, honestly, it's too late anyway. Plus, if you don't want to support the movies yourself, you can just watch this video instead. Oh wait, no, I was joking. Hold on a second.
This video is transformative in nature and in no way acts as a direct market substitute.
Oh, and before we start real quick, while we're on the topic of copyright, I've been encountering a new problem with these videos where the movies themselves are no longer blocked for copyright issues, which is really cool. But the music in the scenes that I show you guys do get blocked, which means that the entire video gets blocked anyway, just for a new, stupider reason. For instance, in my Aquaman video, the entire movie got past copyright. They said it was okay, but the scene of Black Manta getting beaten up had all of the audio removed. The same thing happened in my last video, which is why the Martha scene from Batman v Superman is just cut weirdly. YouTube doesn't give me any options except removing all the audio after the video is up or removing the entire scene. So if this video ends up having weird gaps or scenes with no audio, it's not my fault. Sorry. So anyway, with that out of the way, let's start with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This movie can be best described as timeless. I think that word can be applied to all of the movies, but this one sets the tone that the rest of the films follow. We open this movie to Harry Potter in his New York apartment where he works part-time as a slave, and this is where we realize why everybody fell in love with this character. Because his life fucking sucks. By far the best and easiest way to make a kid character lovable is to make him have a shitty life. And plus, Harry serves as a pretty good audience surrogate because he's new to this world too. We see it all for the first time through his eyes. We learn with him. But this can also lead to him being kind of empty as a character in a lot of movies. This happens later on, but in this one, I think it's fine. Also, check out what my man is wearing. Look at this fit.
I'd be crying if I look like that too, bro. That's fucked up what they be doing to y'all.
And I gotta say, for a movie centered around mostly child actors, I think the performances could definitely be worse. Some are certainly better than others, and I'll say that the weakest kid in this one is, strangely enough, Daniel Radcliffe. Which is weird because he's probably the better actor out of most people in this movie, at least when he gets older. But he kinda has to grow into it, and I will say it's interesting to watch this kid literally grow as an actor in these movies. You can watch him get better. In this franchise, you can see his highs and his lows.
He was that friend!
And it's not like he's bad in this movie, he's just a little more stiff than the other kids. I think these kids perform the worst when they're just with each other. If they don't have an adult actor to bounce off of, they're kind of awkward.
That explains the blood. Blood?
Blood?
blood.
See, I like shots like this where you can tell the director was like, okay, kids, I need you all to look confused. Also, it goes without saying, but the adult actors are all really good. And the one stealing the show is obviously Alan Rickman. He's putting on such a fun performance, and he doesn't let up in the later movies either. He keeps this energy throughout the series. Just from his first scene, his introduction, you can tell that he is different than everybody else.
I can teach you how to bewitch the mind and ensnare the senses.
Ooh, this man is gay. However, I could say that this movie does have one of the weaker villains. The mastermind of this movie is Jeff Bezos. And I guess he's kind of on the weaker side because we're led to believe in this movie that Snape is the villain, and it's kind of like a little bait and switch. And as a bait and switch, I guess it's fine because at the time you're not really supposed to think that Snape's a good guy because, I mean, look at him. I think most of the reason why I can't complain about this is because this is just a really solid movie. It's quite hard to poke holes in it. I also like a lot of the effects in these early movies. The later movies kind of do away with a lot of the practical effects, but in this movie and the next one, we have some really cool sets and awesome effects makeup, and even the primitive CG doesn't really look that bad here. I mean, especially considering this is like, what, 2001? This looks fine for 2001, if you ask me. However, I will say there are some narrative issues that I have with this first movie. For instance, there are some holes in the world building. It takes a few movies for us to learn why muggles can't see the stuff that wizards are doing. We don't know why wizards are a secret to the world, and we don't really know how they fit into the world at large. I also don't like that we don't really find out much about the other houses in Hogwarts in this movie. They focus on Gryffindor and Slytherin a lot, but in all of these movies, we only meet like 1 or 2 children from Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. And with that being said, in a lot of these movies, you kind of forget that the Slytherins are even there. It's very much the Gryffindor show here. Yeah, JK built a really cool, fantastical world that we only see one aspect of. And also, if you try to nitpick the story, you could probably find some weird holes. Like, why the fuck does Quirrell want to secretly ruin Harry's Quidditch game? Did Voldemort really tell him to sabotage the sports game? What's your fucking deal, man? Come on. Also, I love how Harry literally sits and watches the whole game without doing anything to help. Oh my god, that sucks, bro. Damn, you guys are really losing, huh? If only I could do something to help. If you compare these first 2 stories to the rest of the series, things also don't always work as far as the writing goes. J.K. Rowling, like many other authors, like to make things up as she goes along, but her special trait is that she likes to lie and pretend that she actually planned everything from the beginning. I went into this a lot more in my video about the Fantastic Beasts movie, so go watch that if you want to. Why does Voldemort try to kill Harry if he needs Harry to be alive so he can regain his true form? Well, that's because JK didn't come up with that rule until later. I'm not stupid, JK, come on. But overall, I think the story in this movie has a pretty good flow. It's not trying to be overly complicated, it's a very simple kids' mystery fantasy story. And I like how the final challenge for the main characters in this movie is this test of all of the abilities that we've seen them have so far. Hermione gets to be smart, Harry gets to do his broom thing, and Ron gets to die. Look at this dude, he's faking it. His ass is not asleep.
You'll be okay, Harry. You're a great wizard.
Wait a minute, I wouldn't say that he's a great wizard. And honestly, if we think about it, Harry has not casted a single spell in this movie. And I went back and checked, I'm not fucking kidding. In this entire movie, he does not use his wand to cast a single spell. Hell, the final battle is actually strangely barbaric compared to the rest of the stuff we see in this series. The villain doesn't even try to kill Harry with a spell, he just tries to choke his ass out. If you watch this for the first time, it's a pretty cute story, and then if you watch it too many times over the course of your lifetime like I have, you kinda can't watch it the same way again. Because now I watch this movie and I think Harry's kinda dumb, and he's gullible, and he does whatever anybody tells him to do.
Come here, Potter! Now!
Okie dokie. But anyway, that's the first movie. It's hard to hate on this. I'm just goofing. This movie's fine. This movie is timeless as hell, and it's a great start to the series. It's not really gonna blow your mind at this point, but I remember back when I saw it, this shit was legit. And I always really like when the first movie in a long series nails the tone. So I'm gonna give this one 7 out of 10. I don't know, the score doesn't really matter in these. They're like all the same. Why am I reviewing all these again? Anyway, next movie. Harry Potter 2 is really long. There's a lot of shit that happens in this movie, like seriously a lot. There's shit in this movie that I straight up forget about every time I watch it. And if I try to lay out the plot of this movie, it's kind of insane. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So this movie opens with Harry being visited by Gollum, and I should point out that for 2002, this little dude looks really good. So anyway, Dobby tells Harry that he can't go to school this year because he heard that his master, Lucius Malfoy, is talking about this evil plan to wreak havoc in Hogwarts. And Dobby doesn't want Harry to be in danger because he's like a huge fan of his, I guess. But Harry ignores him because he wants to go to school. So him and his friends all go back to school shopping, and Malfoy's dad shows up and he talks about how racist he is and how he hates muggles and mudbloods. See, this movie introduces wizard racism, which is good because I saw the first one and I remember saying, damn, this movie is good, but it'd be way better with racism in it. And look, J.K. Rowling even came up with a new slur for this universe.
Call me
He did not.
So Lucius Malfoy's plan is to secretly slip an evil magical diary into the cauldron that belongs to Ron's 11-year-old sister. You see, this magic evil diary belonged to Voldemort. So Malfoy's dad is hoping that Ginny will open the magic evil diary and become possessed by the spirit of young sexy Voldemort. Oh, and J.K. Rowling retcons it later so that the diary is actually one of Voldemort's secret magical artifacts that are a part of his soul that he split apart. But again, I'm not fucking stupid, and I know you came up with that shit later, because why the fuck would Voldemort give Lucius Malfoy one of his Horcruxes just so he could give it to Ginny? So anyway, Ginny starts talking to young sexy ghost Voldemort in secret. And he tells her to open the Chamber of Secrets, which is an evil, ancient torture chamber, where one of the founders of Hogwarts used to send impure wizards so they would be fucking killed by a giant snake. So basically, this giant fucking snake travels through the walls of Hogwarts to go around and kill impure wizards. Because Salazar Slytherin taught the snake to be racist. And that sounds like the kind of thing I would make up, but it's actually fucking true. Because Harry can literally hear what the snake is saying, and all it talks about is how badly it wants to murder the mudblood children. So yeah, this story is basically just Ginny using the Death Note to cause problems around the school. She fucking bleeds a cat, writes hate speech on the walls in its blood. She tries to kill like 3 students. She almost kills a ghost. I didn't even know that was fucking possible. And in general, she participates in actual terrorism over the course of the entire school year until Harry finds out what's going on. He goes into the chamber, he kills the snake with a sword, which is pretty cool, but I'm still wondering why he's not casting any fucking spells. Use magic, you fucking idiot. You have a wand. And when it's all over, Lucius is like, Harry, you motherfucker, you ruined my weird, complicated plan. And then he tries to kill Harry. He starts to fucking say Avada Kedavra. He was gonna kill his ass right outside of Dumbledore's office. How were you planning on getting away with that, you fucking idiot? The one thing that bothers me about this movie is this is the one where Dumbledore is definitely the most irresponsible. He probably knows about the giant racist snake, but he can't find the ancient Nazi torture chamber, so oh well. The children can tell that Gilderoy Lockhart is a fraud, but Dumbledore, the wisest, coolest wizard, still hires him to work with children. For some reason, this movie's just really dumb to me now that I'm watching it again. I hadn't seen it in a while. So much of this movie falls apart under the lightest bit of scrutiny. The snake is fucking gigantic, but it can still crawl around inside the walls. Why didn't any of the ghosts see it? I wouldn't normally nitpick this hard, but ghosts are actually a pretty important plot point in this movie. One of the people who got killed by the snake is a ghost. And she literally lives inside the bathroom that has the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. Why didn't she see Ginny opening it? Why couldn't she see the snake crawling around inside the pipes? I wouldn't be questioning this if Moaning Myrtle didn't live inside the fucking toilet. Also, it's kind of dumb how Harry goes to Aragog, the giant spider, and he asks him, hey, are you an evil monster that's terrorizing the students? And Aragog's like,
what? No.
And Harry's like, oh, okay, cool, I was just checking. But then Aragog's like, yeah, no problem. Okay, I'm gonna eat you now. But by far, one of the things about this story in particular that is just so fucking funny to me is the reveal of Tom Riddle secretly being Voldemort. See, J.K. Rowling really wanted to take Voldemort's name and Tom Riddle's name and connect them. So she came up with this. Voldemort's name is just an anagram of Tom Marvolo Riddle, but I can't stop thinking of young Voldemort writing in his little diary, "I am Lord Voldemort." This makes Voldemort so much less cool. And Marvolo's not even a fucking real name. It is like the fakest name I've ever heard. J.K. Rowling just fucking sucks at making names, alright? Her names are worse than Star Wars names sometimes. Because Jar Jar Binks is a dumb name, but it does sound like the name of a weird alien, so I give it a pass. I don't give a pass to Porpentina or Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. But you know, I will say, Remus Lupin is a pretty cool name for a werewolf. But isn't it a weird coincidence that the guy whose birth name is literally Lupine just so happens to end up accidentally becoming a werewolf later in his life? Whatever, it's a fucking kid's book, I don't care. Also in this story, we find out that Hagrid lost his wand and got expelled because he was framed by young Voldemort. And even though we find out that Hagrid was innocent, Dumbledore still doesn't let Hagrid do magic. Instead, he lets him work for him in the next movie. So he graduates from slavery to indentured servitude. So, thanks for that. Dumbledore just fucking stands by while Hagrid gets arrested in this movie. He lets him get sent to fucking Azkaban, which we learn later on is basically super jail. Dumbledore is such a useless piece of shit. Isn't this guy supposed to be your friend? Now, yes, I spent a lot of time making fun of this movie, but this is the movie that's pretty easy to make fun of. It still does have a lot of the same good things that you'd expect from this series. Like I said, the effects are better than they were even in the last movie, and I liked the effects in the last movie just fine. I think this movie actually looks perfectly fine by today's standards. And also, I should say that the kids in this one are a lot better at acting than they were in the last movie. They're starting not to feel like child actors anymore in this one. I also do like how this movie raises the stakes a little bit. The first movie talks about the threat of death a lot, but this movie shows us that dying is an actual possibility. Being a child does not make you immune to dying. Also, Harry gets to use a sword to fight a giant monster in the final battle. I'm a simple man. If I see a fantasy adventure series, I want to see my main character fight a giant monster with a sword. Like I said, all of the Harry Potter movies are basically on the same level for me. This one's just a little weaker than the others. It's still a cute, charming adventure movie, but the story is needlessly convoluted. And honestly, if you erase it from the series, nothing really changes in this story. Minus the fucking Horcrux thing, but we already talked about how stupid that is. This is a weird one. It's definitely not my favorite. I'm gonna give it like a 5 out of 10, I guess. And then we'll move on. Harry Potter 3 is fucking awesome. This is where these movies get good, and you can tell right at the beginning. Right from the start, you can feel how the tone is different. The colors are darker. The jokes are better. And overall, this movie just has more life to it. It has more of its own personality. If you ask me, the Harry Potter movies slide along a scale. On one end, you have the childlike, whimsical fantasy, and on the other end, you have like creepy, mysterious fantasy. The movies kind of grow up with the audience. Oh, and this is mostly due to the fact that this movie was directed by fucking Alfonso Cuarón, director of Gravity, and even some movies that are good. He knows what he's fucking doing, and it shows. In fact, Nerdwriter has a really good video on why this movie is the best one, and I fully agree with all of his points. There's just so much in this movie to appreciate from a filmmaking standpoint. I should also say that the performances kind of stand out in this one for me too, most notably from the adult actors. I like this one scene where all of the grown-ups are basically just acting at each other. It's like a little Shakespeare scene. I fucking love it. And I've said it before, but Alan Rickman really is the best thing about all of these movies. He gives it his all in every single one. I love how hard he goes. Every little mannerism is calculated. And I just love how extra he is. And the story in this movie is really cool too. This is the first movie where it's exciting and engaging from beginning to end, and there's no like dumb convoluted side plots. And this is a movie with time travel. The fact that it's not convoluted is somehow a miracle. Also, if you're not aware, this movie has really clever long takes. This director really likes his long takes, and I think he uses them really well in this movie. Also, the action is kept up pretty well in the beginning of this movie. We have a few little exciting set pieces that keep us invested. This confrontation on the Hogwarts Express is actually a really good way of keeping the tension up without being a cheap action scene. I really like just throwing a random fucking horror movie scene in the middle of our kids' adventure. And then we're introduced to Lupin, who's a really cool character. I really like him. I wish he was in more fucking movies, but whatever, it's fine, I'll deal with it. I also like these little extra scenes that weren't in the book and just set the tone, like this frog choir scene. I can't play the music because I'll get fucked, but it's cool, trust me. There's also this cute scene of the boys goofing off, and then we pan over to see that the threat of the Dementors is still present. It's good juxtaposition. And again, this isn't in the book. All of the Harry Potter stories take place over the course of a school year, and I really like how we're shown the change of the seasons with these little vignettes about the Whomping Willow. This movie's also shot really fucking well. I love some of the shots that he does in this movie. Cuarón does this thing where he likes to go through glass, and it happens like 3 or 4 times in this movie. There are a lot of scenes in this movie that don't need long takes, but they have them anyway. Look at this fucking insane shot. We start by going through the mirror, because again, Cuarón likes doing that, and then Hermione appears in the shot, and Ron remarks on her appearing out of nowhere, because if we look back, she wasn't fucking there. Remember that Hermione is time traveling around in this movie, and we literally see her just blip into the scene. It's really fucking cool. This movie just starts adding a lot of extra things that weren't in the books, and it makes it better every time. And if you ask me, the story gets particularly interesting once Harry and the gang start time traveling, which normally I would never say about a story with time travel. Because in this movie, you think the story has reached its climax, with the villain being revealed, and then a showdown with the Dementors, and honestly, everything up to this point has just gone to shit, but it's still really exciting. As far as we know, the cute magical Pokemon was executed, Lupin turned into a monster and disappeared, and Sirius is about to be executed. Everything fucking sucks. But then, they go back in time and reverse engineer it so that everything goes their way. And you know, I don't like to give J.K. Rowling credit, but this is the one narrative that is almost airtight. Almost. The only major problem with this story is just the concept of the time turner. Because honestly, you can't just introduce the concept of time travel without messing things up a little bit. Because now we're gonna wonder, well, why didn't anybody go back in time and kill Voldemort? Why didn't anybody go back in time and save Harry's parents? All J.K. Rowling has to do is say something like, oh, the time turners only go back 24 hours, or something like that. There's so many ways to fix this problem. But no, her stupid ass had to double down because she has to make it seem like she doesn't make mistakes. If you call her out for anything, she tries to justify it because she's stubborn as fuck. Oh hey, J.K. Rowling, isn't it kind of dumb that nobody ever time traveled to stop Voldemort? Yeah, well, it is dumb, and that's why in my new book, they go back in time, and everything's bad, and they go back in time to save Cedric, and Voldemort rules the world, and the world is run by Nazis, so yeah, there you go, haha. I swear to God, this woman is so bad at taking L's. But hey, we get more chances to make fun of her in the later books because of this, so I'll take it. I will say that the time travel, if contained to this story, works pretty well. We find out that things didn't actually go badly because time is like a loop where you can't really change much that happens. I've seen time travel in a lot of stories that I really like that was done way worse. I just think there's so much to love in this movie. I could probably make a whole video about it myself. I love Snape's personal stake in the story, how he has to confront the people who abused him in his childhood. I like this little moment where he protects the kids. The twist villain is pretty good, and I like how this story doesn't really have a conventional antagonist. I'd say that the main villains of this movie are fear and, like, time. I think that's pretty fucking cool. And I like it that Harry in this story takes it upon himself to learn stronger magic. We just had 2 movies where he really doesn't do a lot of magic, which is weird because it's a story about fucking wizards. So it's nice to see him, like, actually try for once. And then it builds up to this great moment where he expects someone to come in and save the day for him because that's kind of what's happened every time up until now. And then he realizes nobody's coming to help him and he has to save the day himself. It's really cool. I like it a lot. It's a very good moment in this series. Oh, and of course, I cannot talk about this movie without mentioning the absolutely insane final shot. This shit makes me laugh every time I watch this movie. In a worse movie, this final shot would be ridiculous. But I think it's funny, and I like this movie, so I'm gonna give it a pass. It's my video, fuck you, I can say whatever I want. There's a lot of things that I like that I can't really get into because then this video would be really long. I like this movie, and that's not really a surprise because everybody likes this one. This is a lot of people's favorite. And with this one, you can kind of see why I'm okay with defending these movies, even though I don't like J.K. Rowling. Most of what I enjoy in this movie is stuff that she didn't even come up with. There are so many little extra moments for the characters that are brilliant. I see this as an Alfonso Cuarón film. He's not transphobic as far as I know, so why should I ignore his work and the work of other people who helped make this movie work as well as it does? Doesn't seem fair to me. Anyway, this movie owns. Go watch it if you haven't. 9 out of 10, next movie. Harry Potter 4 is decent. It's fine, I guess. Controversial opinion incoming. This is where the cracks really start to form for the series. Now, like the last one, a lot of people would probably say that this is their favorite, and I used to think that way too, but nowadays, I don't like it as much, which is kind of weird. As for the story, this is basically a shonen tournament arc, which is pretty fun and exciting, and I think as far as the plot goes, this is like the more exciting story on paper. Harry has entered into this huge tournament against his will, and he has to find a way to beat the challenges and unravel a mystery mostly on his own. Before, a lot of Harry's adventures were influenced and assisted by other characters. But here he has to start figuring out things on his own, and I do think that's pretty cool. This is especially evident in the climax of this movie. For instance, in the first movie, Harry brings his 2 new BFFs into the final battle with him. And in the second one, he just brings Ron. In the third one, he brings just Hermione. And in this one, he's on his own. And I really like that. I love a lot of things about this final battle, but I'll get into that later. First, let's talk about a lot of the things that I don't really like in this movie. Firstly, Cedric Diggory is really lame. I'm sorry, Robert Pattinson. I think Cedric is severely underwritten in this story. That goes for the book and the movie. I genuinely think Harry and Cedric should have been super chummy, super best friends. In this story, his relationship with Ron is pretty strained, up until Ron just randomly decides to stop being an asshole. Oh, and I should mention, Ron is like a huge dick from this point onward. He stops being nice for like the rest of the series. He goes from being a super loyal best bro who has Harry's best interest in mind to a weird, petty, spiteful asshole. There are a lot of scenes where he's just a fucking dickhead.
Victor's gone to go and get drinks. Would you care to join us?
No, would not care to join you and Victor.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But what if we made this the point of the story? What if Harry starts to replace Ron with Cedric, and then Cedric gets killed in the end, making us really fucking sad, and then Harry has to go back to his friend and be comforted by him? When Cedric dies in the end, it doesn't really hit us until later when Cedric's dad is crying. People say this scene is sad, but I don't think it's that sad because I don't really care about Cedric that much. This is the turning point of the entire series, and it could definitely be more powerful. Another huge problem I have with this story in particular is Mad-Eye Moody. See, this is where JK starts making her stories complex for literally no reason. She has definitely gone too far in a few places. The entire Barty Crouch subplot is stupid as shit. I just do not give a shit about any of the scenes that feature Barty Crouch and Cornelius Fudge. These fucking names, I swear to God. I mean, this is a story where Harry is in a fucking anime tournament. He has to face off against a sexy French girl and a hard-boiled Russian super soldier and fucking Batman. But half of the story is devoted to the Crouch family. This also completely destroys the character of Mad-Eye Moody. Moody is given so much characterization in this story, except we learn that this isn't the real Mad-Eye Moody. It's fucking wizard Nazi Doctor Who pretending to be Mad-Eye Moody. And after they arrest him, we're left with regular Moody, who we don't even know, because we never met him. So when he shows up in the later movies, we don't even care because we don't know who he is. And when he dies off screen, we super don't care. If you remove the Crouch plotline and just leave Moody as normal Mad-Eye Moody, it doesn't really change the story that much. Just say that fucking Peter Pettigrew put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire. He can already sneak in and out of the castle, and he's a character that we already know and hate. She keeps inventing new characters and new villains just to get rid of them after one story. I think part of the reason why people love Bellatrix so much is because she actually sticks around for more than one story. In a long, epic adventure fantasy series, it's nice to have villains that we can grow a relationship with as well. Moody would have been so much more interesting if this was really him. I like the idea of a genius teacher who's pretty hard on the students but still has their best interests in mind. I love the scene where he triggers Neville's PTSD and then he realizes he went too far, so he offers to give him some tea and hang out with him. Oh wait, sorry. That's not really Moody, it's just Nazi David Tennant pulling Neville aside so he can trick him later. That's stupid. Neville doesn't need to be tricked into helping Harry find a magical plant. Neville already likes magical plants, and he likes helping Harry. He would have done it on his own.
Did you think that miserable oaf would have led you into the woods if I hadn't suggested it?
What the fuck does that even mean? You're telling me Hagrid wouldn't have shown Harry the dragons? Hagrid loves to show Harry magical animals. He does it all the time. Also, this leads into my next point. While I like the idea of there being illegal spells, Avada Kedavra is the dumbest fucking spell in the entire series. All of the other forbidden spells make perfect sense to me. Mind control spell? Yeah, that's fucked up. That should be illegal. Torture spell? Yeah, that's fucked up. That should be illegal. Spell that kills someone? Now your gut reaction might be to say that, yeah, that spell should be illegal. But lots of spells kill people in this universe. What spell is this? It looks kinda evil. Not an illegal spell though. This spell fucking kills people. Not illegal though. The difference is that other spells are actually creative, too. Avada Kedavra just stops you from being alive. It's lame as fuck and it removes so much creativity from the series. The later duels just revolve around one person shooting the evil green laser and a good guy shooting the good guy red laser. The best fight in the entire series is only cool because Voldemort realizes he can't rely on his dumbass murder laser. It's two wizards actually using cool creative spells to try to kill each other. Oh, but this spell isn't illegal. It looks like it should be fucking illegal. What the fuck even is this? He's shooting him with the power of evil. Why isn't that illegal? Oh, and this point kind of sits on its own, and I'm gonna upset some of you with this one, but I do not think Emma Watson is very good at acting. She suits Hermione just fine, but Hermione is kind of a caricature a lot of the time.
Are you done having your tantrum?
Her line delivery sometimes is just kind of off. Like she's always fucking yelling at people, even when it's not appropriate.
Wake up! Wake up, Ronald!
Bloody hell.
Honestly, get dressed.
Also, I hate how she acts with her eyebrows. I don't know who told her to do this, but it's really distracting once you start to notice it. All of this is frustrating to me because this seriously should be the coolest Harry Potter movie. It has so much potential, but it's being dragged down by this overly complicated plot and this extra needless world building. This is J.K. Rowling's biggest failing as an author. She thinks she's smarter than she is. A story being more complex does not mean it's better. Harry Potter is best when it's simple. The concept of a little orphan boy becoming a strong, powerful wizard with a lot of friends is really simple and it catches us immediately. But as the story keeps going, she keeps adding shit that we do not care about, and it starts to muddy up the concepts that we fell in love with. But that isn't to say that this one doesn't still have stuff that I like. And I'm gonna say that with all of the movies that I don't like in this series. But like I said, I don't hate this movie. I think it's decent. It's just that the problems in this one are starting to become more apparent. I personally don't think Harry Potter as a character is as lame as people think he is. I like that he's just brave as hell in all of these movies. Remember how he accepts his fucking death in the second movie? He's 12 years old and he's willing to give his life to save someone else. I think that's pretty cool. When I see a little kid pushing himself to do something even though he's really afraid, that's when I start to consider it a strong character trait. If there's one thing you can criticize Harry for, it's that he's kind of a dick sometimes. And in the books, this is kind of shown to be just childhood angst. But in the movies, it doesn't really feel like that most of the time. It just feels like he's a rude person.
Neville, no offense, but I really don't care.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine.
Oh, and this isn't really a critique, but I think it's really funny whenever Harry screams in these movies. I know that sounds weird, but I don't know how to explain it. I just think he yells really funny. He just has a funny yell. But on the end of actually praising Harry, I like how his personal arc is developing in this movie in particular. And this arc continues into the 5th movie where I think he's the strongest and the most developed. In this one, he has to fully accept that he's gotten as far as he has just because of the help he's received from other people. In this one, he's getting bullied, he can't really rely on Ron and Hermione, and I love how he decides to use his own personal skill with the broom to beat the Dragon Challenge. It's cool how all of the challenges rely on the contestants to use their own methods to win, but I do wish they showed other characters beating their challenges. Again, it's a lot of missed potential. It's very disappointing. I will say I really do like the climax of this movie, though. This movie culminates in the full return of Voldemort, and this is where the entire series hits a turning point. Before this, it was very much a whimsical, childlike fantasy. After this point, everything fucking sucks. And this is also big because we haven't seen Voldemort's true form yet. And I think he looks fucking awesome. It helps too that Ralph Fiennes is doing a very good performance as Voldemort. I really like how this feels like the most fucked situation Harry has ever gotten into. I also like how Harry is reasonably afraid when he realizes how screwed he is. But again, he's brave as shit, and he decides that if he's going down swinging. You can tell that he's just forcing himself to be brave in the face of a situation that he has no hope of coming out of alive. I just really love this moment for Harry. This is probably one of my favorite moments for the character altogether. Oh, and one more thing I should bring up is that this movie has the most tonally dissonant ending out of all the movies. Every single movie, except for 2 of them, decide to try to end in an optimistic way, even if it doesn't fit. And this is the one where it feels the most forced. Right after we mourned the death of a child, the tone kind of just goes back to being happy for the ending. The entire status quo of this universe has shifted. We cannot end the movie with a joke anymore. It just doesn't work.
I think we'll ever just have a quiet year at Hogwarts.
Ron, our friend fucking died. Anyway, this movie isn't that bad, but for some reason, even though I've seen it a million times and I've liked it for most of my life, I've noticed a lot of things that I didn't really like this time around. The tournament is cool in concept, but the slice of life school drama isn't really paced very well, and the story doesn't really feel satisfying to unravel like some of the other mysteries have been, so it might be kind of controversial, but I'm gonna have to give this one a 6 out of 10. Okay, those are the first 4 movies in the Harry Potter series, and we have another 4 to go. And the last half of the movies are really miserable. Merry Christmas! Whee!